What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream. And well, today we're just gonna recap a recap off season number one and kick off season number two. So the first thing I want to talk about is I actually did extend Bobby Witt Jr. this offseason. I gave him a 7-year contract extension with scaling up. It's about average of about $14 million a year, which is roughly about what he was looking for. I like this because we're locking up one of our top players for quite a while right now. He's going to be actually giving us a little bit of a bargain come like that 2028 season and beyond when he would be after an arbitration. We also lock him up till he's at least 30 and give ourselves a chance to get into a competition window so we have a better chance of signing him. He likes it because he gets paid now. He doesn't have to worry about any type of risk right now. So what we also did is you'll notice we moved him long term to third base. I liked how Michael Garcia looked last year. He's also a much better defensive shortstop if you take a look here than Bobby Witt is. So I'm comfortable leaving Bobby Witt at the corner. Right now, he obviously still has shortstop as his second position, so he can move over to shortstop when needed. But I kind of like what I'm seeing out of Michael Garcia. Hopefully, he can kind of build off of what he was able to do last season. I'm going to also recap a couple trades I made in the offseason. The first one I'm going to talk about right now is I actually sent Hunter Dozier to the Texas Rangers. I did not realize it, but he was on a 2-year contract when the franchise started. So I didn't really want to keep him around, but it didn't make sense to just cut him. And I figured that the Rangers could really use him because Josh Jung really didn't play very well last year, so they could use a third baseman. He can also double at the corner outfield positions, which obviously they could use some help there as well. So I sent them Hunter Dozier along with, as you can see, Tanner Gentry, who's also in their majors right now. So they got a little bit of help at a couple positions they needed. I was okay moving on from Gentry. I didn't love how he played last year. Yeah, decent makeup, but I was okay moving on from them. And the reason I did this is I wanted to take a look at I needed a veteran left-handed starting pitcher, and I brought back Danny Duffy, who played pretty much his entire career for the Kansas City Royals. I didn't love the left-handed starting pitching options out in free agency. I mean, there was some good ones at the top, but there weren't ones that were going to be interested in signing with us right now. The ones who were going to be affordable or we'd have a shot at, they just had some issues. And personally, I kind of liked how Danny Duffy has performed. I think he's got a pretty strong makeup as well. So I brought him in. Hopefully he can have a pretty good start to the season and we can move him at the deadline for some more prospects. So that's going to finish recapping that trade. I do have one more to tell you guys, but I'll talk about that in a little bit later. So let's go through some of the offseason signings we have. So we brought in Noah Syndergaard after a pretty strong year with the Dodgers last year. He didn't get a whole lot of interest in free agency. As you can see how the mighty have fallen. I mean, Syndergaard used to be one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. But I'm really happy to snag him, and we feel like we got a pretty good deal with him. I think we got a good chance to have him have a pretty good season and flip him at the deadline for a solid little package. I also picked up Josiah Gray. He was, for some reason, traded to the White Sox from the Nationals, and they non-tendered him. I don't know why, but I was like, okay, you know what? I like Josiah Gray personally. I know he's got like high C potential. Let's check him out real quick. 77. So that's good. That's like a 4th starter. So I wanted to go out and snag him, see if we can kind of, catch lightning in a bottle, revive his career a little bit. He used to be a top prospect in the Dodgers organization. So I'm excited about throwing this kid at the back end of our rotation and seeing what we can get. Another big name I brought in that I was not expecting to do was Tyler Mahle. So I started out, it was going for Sonny Gray, who's one of my favorite in the past couple of years to go after during a rebuild to get a guy to resign and then flip for prospects, whatever. Well, I gave him an offer of 1 year for the exact amount that he was looking for. And that's how I made all of these offers. I put them down to 1 or 2 years and then, you're looking for this amount of dollars? I'm going to give you exactly that. If you accept, you accept. If you don't, you don't. Well, Gray took like 2 weeks and didn't accept. And by that point, I got phased out by other offers as people came in. So I was like, all right, fine. So I switched over to Kenta Maeda, and a similar thing happened. So I'm like, crap. Well, there's not really any guys left in free agency that like are on the like ideal, like lower end or whatever that I might want to take a shot at. I'll just let my younger guys kind of fight for the rotation spots. But I looked at Tyler Mott. He hadn't signed yet. He had 3 offers for multiple years, like 4 years or something like that. But he was not happy with them. And I'm like, maybe I'll slide in here and I'll give him a 1 year prove it deal. Sure enough, I did, and I signed him for 1 year, $10.5 million. And so he's a prove it deal for him. He could end up playing for a contender if he pitches well. So I was really excited to kind of snake in and steal him. I think this could be a big trade chip for us this season. I really do love his makeup. So then I wanted to attack the bullpen a little bit. As you can see, I'm going to make a lot of signings. I usually don't do that many after the first year of a rebuild, but there was just a lot of pieces out there that I felt like fit pretty well. So I went out and I got Ryan Stanek, who's pitched the last few years for the Houston Astros. I'm going to put him in our closer's role. As you see how effective he's been with those ERAs. Take a look at his FIPS. His FIPS have been also very good. So I'm pretty excited to have this guy in our closer's role. He's not a high overall, but I love his makeup. I think he could pitch really well, which could net us something positive at the deadline. And then I also went out there and I snagged Jimmy Nelson. Used to be a starting pitcher, a pretty decent one. Well, an okay one, at least for Milwaukee. Had a lot of arm injuries, and then finally, last couple seasons, has found himself a bullpen role for the Dodgers. Just another arm to kind of like veteran arm in our bullpen. Maybe could be a trade chip. We'll see how things work out there. Okay, I also mentioned that I was going to go out and get a veteran catcher, and that's what I did. I looked at a few different ones. The reason I decided on Austin Hedges is because he really is a great defensive catcher, and MJ Melendez really isn't. So I wanted somebody to be kind of contrasting. So maybe, you know what, if I'm not getting offensive production out of Melendez early in the season, I'll just go over to Hedges and I'll get better defensive production. So kind of give myself a little bit of, you know what, if you're not going to give me offense, I'm going to at least get something out of my catching position. So that's why I decided on him. There's a couple other guys out there like Victor Caratini. I like Carrot Top personally as a Cubs fan, but I felt like Austin Hedges was a better fit. Now, we went to, let's go over to third base, and Gio Urshela actually had a career year last year, and I was excited to go after him. He was getting an offer from the Angels, but nobody else really, and they kind of lowballed him a little bit, so I just threw a 2-year, $20 million contract at him, and he came over to play for us. I was initially signing him to play second base because he does have that as a secondary position, and I could use somebody to be there, but things kind of shook out in a way that I was pretty comfortable with to put him in my DH role. So I'm excited to have him as part of our lineup. Might hold on to him for the 2 years, might flip him at one of the 2 deadlines. We'll see how things kind of shake out. Also at third base, I brought in Ayer Adrianza. This is kind of an interesting signing. Usually he doesn't have a great makeup. I don't think he has very high potential. I do like that he has the multiple positions, so he's a nice little utility guy. Now, I also have that in Nate Eaton as well. But what I liked about Adrianza is I actually peeked in. He had a killer season last year. Now, he only had 153 at-bats, but I love what he did with those at-bats. So I'm kind of curious. I'm going to throw him at second base to start the season. If he does kind of fall a little bit flat, okay, we'll put him on the bench. Worst case scenario, it's only a $4 million contract. We can cut him and eat the contract and whatnot. Okay, and then there's one more move I made, and I went out and I got Harrison Bader. Now, this is a guy I would normally not target because I'm like, it's not that realistic. He's a B potential 81 overall, 29 years old. He should be a hot target on the free agent market. Well, not really, because if you look at his numbers the last couple of years, 2023 and 2022 were not very good. So he was getting absolutely no offers in free agency, and this was like a month and a half in a free agency. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is legit at this point for me to go after him. And I threw a 1-year, $8.1 million contract, prove-it contract for him. And I'm going to see if we can kind of capture lightning in a bottle, recapture those 2021 and 2020 seasons. Bader's a really good defensive outfielder. He's got great speed. He's got a little bit of pop in his bat. He's got enough there for me to think that he can really do something for us. So I'm hoping we can catch that lightning in a bottle, and he can have a hot start to the season, and we can get ourselves a nice return in a trade package. So that's it. I did some other roster filler moves and everything like that, and that's the extent of the guys I targeted in free agency. Now, the Rule 5 draft, typically I like to try to target somebody in the Rule 5 draft. I didn't end up drafting anybody. I didn't find anybody I really liked. I will say one thing that was a pleasant surprise for me is that there were not a bunch of top prospects sitting out there in the Rule 5 draft. It seems like the computer actually learned how to put prospects on and protect prospects from the Rule 5 draft. So that was actually something positive I came across during this offseason. We did, however, lose a couple of guys in the Rule 5 draft. We took Nick Prado off of our voting man roster because then I was just going to try to park him in AAA and see what happened. And the Houston Astros actually swooped in and took him in the Rule 5 draft. I thought that was kind of interesting, specifically because they are kind of stacked at their first base position anyway, so I don't understand. I gave the computer credit for roster management 1 second, and here we are back on, this random ass stuff that they do. We also lost, athletics. We lost Luka Trash. I did not put him on the 40-man roster. I was like, I don't really care if we lose him. I didn't think anybody was going to take him because he's 69 overall. A little disappointed because I kind of like his makeup. Really good defensive catcher. I think he's got some good stuff he can work with the bat as well. But he ends up in as a backup catcher in Oakland. Not going to be a long-term fit there anyways, as Shea Langeliers and Tyler Soderstrom are there. And I just noticed that a bunch of the Joe Randoms I created to get rid of the international prospect or international free agents and all the legends in the free agent market when I made the roster have been signed by a bunch of teams. I don't know why, whatever. Let a 1 overall play in AAA. I don't think it's really going to make any difference, but it's kind of funny to look at. Anyway, so those are the 2 guys that we lost in the Rule 5 draft. So after things kind of shook out, one thing I was looking to improve with is I wanted a little bit of I needed an outfielder, specifically a right-handed hitting outfielder that could play in AAA. And I didn't have really a use for Jordan Lyles anymore. So what I did is I traded him. I actually moved him to relief pitcher. Touched down his stamina and everything like that. He still has kind of that swingman role. He could still start with the 55 stamina. But I traded him to the Chicago Cubs. And who I brought home is actually a prospect in their system that I quite like and is not getting a lot of buzz, but is a pretty intriguing guy, and that's Jordan Nwogu out of Michigan. He played at the University of Michigan, big-time power hitter. He's actually kind of developed into a nice, power speed, even just, really just overall great hitter. So the deep potential is probably a little harsh on him, but I wanted to be conservative with his roster set. So I'm excited to have him because I like his makeup with the bat. I think he makes a great DH in this game. And that's what I'm going to put him in AAA. We're going to see what we can get out of him. Maybe he can break into the majors, maybe not, but I'm not too concerned about it. All right. And now the last thing I want to show you is if you guys followed my rebuild franchise last year with the Las Vegas Vipers, you know that I did a special presentation video for some international free agent signings. I created a couple of guys, I put them in the roster, and then I pretended like I signed international free agents. I'm going to do something similar this year. I'm not going to do a whole presentation. I don't have the time to make that kind of a video, even though it was kind of fun making last year. I wish I did have the time. But I signed 4 guys this time, and I tried to keep them relatively in check. So everybody's going to have C potential and nothing crazy. What I'm going to do with these guys is they should take about 1 to 2 years before they're ready to go into AA. And once they start playing in AA, depending on how they play, I'm going to manually adjust their potential. So if they're playing really well, I'm going to give them bumps. If they're playing not so well, I'm going to give them drops. And we're going to do that and see how they can kind of develop. So the first guy is this pitcher out of Cuba, Joaquin Rodriguez. And what he is he's a flame-throwing movement specialist. You see he throws up to 95 miles an hour, can touch 97 at times, but his main pitch is that slider at 85 miles an hour. He's got that 85 break, but you can see he's got some issues with control. He's got some filthy stuff. You see the Ks per nine and the hits per nine, they look pretty good, but he's got to work on his control and his command. You see the base on balls per nine, home runs per nine, not quite ideal right now. Control all the way down at 40. So his pitch grades, his slider is a 65 grade, so that's really filthy stuff. The two-seam fastball, that's a 55 grade. He's got some nice tailing action on that thing, can really give left-handed hitters some headaches and also kind of tail away from right-handed hitters. Now, the four-seam fastball, that only gets a 45 grade. He's got that 95 mile an hour velocity, but it's kind of flat. It doesn't break that much, so he's got to work on kind of angling that a little bit better and get a little bit more movement out of that. So what we're going to have to do in Kansas City is we're going to have to really work on his spin rates to try to get that four-seam fastball to really jump out of his hands a little bit more. And then you see he has a changeup, aka the splitter, because I can't make him throw a changeup 88 miles an hour. That's going to be graded out at a 40. It doesn't have a whole lot of break. He's still too close to his fastball in terms of mile per hour separation. But he's working on it. If he can develop that, he could be a pretty good pitcher. He has a 45 overall grade, which is going to translate to a 78 potential. So high C potential is pretty good. But again, we're going to see how he performs once he gets into Double A, and that's going to adjust his potential from there. The second guy we're going to talk about is Antonio Munoz out of the Dominican Republic. I have this obsession with creating switch hitting catchers. I don't know why. It's just something that always intrigues me. This guy, he's more of a hit over power tool kind of guy. You see the hits, the contact's not too bad at 46 and 40, but he's kind of really down low for the power against righties. He does have a little bit of pop from the right side of the plate against lefties, so that helps a little bit. Obviously, he's got some pretty good vision and discipline, as you'll see. So, sometimes catchers pretty good with the discipline and vision. They just have to, just a way to just handle the bat really well. Defensively, he's a really good receiver. You see he's already pretty advanced in the fielding, reaction, and blocking categories. His arm's not great. His arm strength's a little bit below average, but he does have pretty good transfer times, and his accuracy is pretty good, so that helps. So his grades, he's going to grade out at a 50 plus for hitting, 45 for power, 55 for fielding, 45 plus for arm, and 35 for speed. As you can see, he's all the way down at that 32 speed. So he is a 40 overall grade, which is going to translate to a 74 potential. So nothing too crazy, right around that replacement player range. We'll see if he can kind of jump up once his time in Double A comes. All right, next guy we're going to talk about is a shortstop out of Venezuela, Manuel Duran. So this guy he has an above average hit tool. You see 49, 43 already in the contact department. A little less power, but he's got a little bit of pop against lefties. So he can kind of work on that. You see he's kind of skinny and lean, so kind of get that weight up, get that strength up. He can possibly develop into a decent power bat. However, what he really needs to work on is his vision and his discipline. They're way too low for the guy who swings the bat like he does. He makes really good contact, but sometimes he can struggle. And that mostly comes from his lack of pitch selection. So Royals are going to try to work on that early in his career, so they can help develop that. Now, defensively, he shines. I mean, he is an above average defender. He's got really soft hands defensively, good instincts out there. He's got a pretty decent arm as well. He's just all around a super twitchy athlete. You can see that speed's already up at 83. He's got 75 stealing, so he loves to make plays out on the diamond. He's going to grade out with a hit tool of 50 plus, a power tool of 45 plus, a fielding tool of 55, arm tool of 50 plus, and a run grade of 70. His overall grade is 40 plus, which is going to translate to a 76 potential. So that's right around MLB average. Going up, going down is all going to depend on how he plays once he gets his opportunities. And the last guy we're going to talk about, I always have to create one of these guys. This is Carlos Jimenez out of Dominican Republic. He's a big dude, powerful, 6'3", 205, big-time power bat, but man, he can struggle to make contact. You see the contact numbers are relatively low, but he's got those big-time power numbers, lots of raw power in this kid, a big swing, but it's got some holes in it. That vision's at 0, so he's really going to have to work and develop that. That being said, he's very good at finding his pitch. He's got a nice discipline already at 57. Now, defensively, a little bit below average. Not ideal, but he's got elite arm strength. Already at a 69, that's going to turn into a very strong MLB right fielder with that arm strength. And this guy, he's also a pretty good athlete, so the opportunity for him to be a pretty good, average or above defender is there because of his athleticism. See that 70 speed. Can steal a base or two with that 41 stealing, which is right around league average in this game. So he's going to grade out with a hit tool of 40, power tool of 55 plus, field tool of 45 plus, arm grade of 60, and a run grade of 55. He is a 45 overall grade, which is going to translate to a 78 potential. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the prospects that I was able to create for this. I'm kind of excited. Hopefully they can get into AA in like a year or two, because I would love to do like some player lock games, or just, do something with the, just try to play with all of them. I did a special episode last year where I played with all the international free agent prospects, and I thought that was kind of a little fun little episode to do. So anyways, I'm going to leave you guys with this. We are 24th ranked in Major League Baseball, but we are very good in defense and speed. Unfortunately, not things that necessarily matter that much in this game when you're trying to sim. We definitely need to work a lot on our power, but I feel like we're making strides in both our contact and our pitching. So it's going to be another long season, but that's okay. We're in this for the long haul. We're trying to build up a winner and a long-term dynasty. So that's all I got for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'm gone. Deuces.